Hi guys, how's it going? Today I want to speak about the subject of how do we deal with a world that is ever growing smaller? What do I mean by that? Well, if you really think about it, we have planes, we have trains, we have cars, we have public transportation, we have the internet, we have all of these things that are in place in this world that are basically making things smaller and smaller. Distances are getting smaller and smaller, and basically the boundaries of countries and continents and all these things are kind of disappearing in some way. And for me, I think that that's fascinating. In the old times, what would happen is people would have to take trips on boats and stuff like that and go across the ocean, and they would risk dying by just going on these trips in unknown continents and in unknown places of the world. But now we've pretty much visited all the oceans, all the lands and stuff like that, at least on an above level, not on under the sea and all that, because they haven't actually explored that much of the bottom of the sea because it's just so hard to get there. But at least for land mass and above water and stuff like that, we really have visited everywhere. And now with planes and all these fast moving objects that we've invented through time, we're able to travel so fast. Yet we have countries, yet we have continents, and everyone is kind of blocked in being a citizen of this and that country. We have about 190 countries throughout the world, yet they all have frontiers. They all have places that are difficult to be crossed because we created them in some way. But now that it's getting easier and easier and easier, are you going to be able to keep those frontiers? If it's so easy to go from one place of the world to the other, the world is getting smaller. And what was once again a perilous journey is just a step into an airplane or train or car, and you're there. And I think that's the biggest mistake that we have as human beings, is that we created those frontiers. Because I do understand that there's places of the world that are richer and other places that are poorer. There's places that have wars, there's places that don't have wars. And because of that, it's difficult, because basically we don't want to let in, if we're in a safe place, we don't want to let in wars, and we don't want to let in drugs, and we don't want to let in people who are less educated, I guess, who would just take advantage of the place. But what's sad is that there's so much that the world can give. There's so much food that the world just produces just by having seeds on the floor and stuff like that. And we forget that because we're so much in our little bubble of our world. And even when we live in a country, let's say the United States, we have states. And we're kind of cocooned in those states. And on top of that, within a state, there's cities, there's villages, there's little agglomerations of people that live close together, and you kind of stay stuck within that city because weirdly enough, the world is huge, but at the same time it's so small. And because of that, it's hard to keep up with everything that happens everywhere in the world. And also with media and all that stuff, we get kind of brainwashed into thinking the way that the masses think, and sometimes you're able to basically overcome that, but at the same time, it's tough, because if you're getting the same message put in your brain over and over again, but if you don't really research it, you might start believing these things. And that's why some people become the way they are, because they're not educating themselves in other ways. They're just kind of listening to whatever is being told. And that's why I do think that because the world is getting so small, we need to find a way where it's not anymore the king of a country, the president of a country, the representative of the country, but we should all be representative of the world. We should be people who basically represent our whole world as a unity, because being born in one country or another shouldn't give you more opportunity than the other. We say we're all equal as human beings, but we're not, because we're just not born in the same status. Some people are born with more money. Some people are born with more, just the fact that they're in the better country. Some people are born with more intelligence, less intelligence. But you could be born also with a lot of intelligence, but be in a country that will never give you that opportunity. And then at the place of using your brain, you're going to be using your hands because you have to fight wars. And I don't blame people for crossing countries and all these things in order to get to a better place, because those borders are fake in some way. It's man-made. They didn't exist before. They were created, and at the same time, they've created so many wars, be it because of politics, be it because of religion. But in the end, everything doesn't matter. We are still on this earth. If it's cold, it's cold. If there's going to be a heat wave, there's going to be a heat wave. If a meteorite were to land on this planet, well, guess what? The repercussions wouldn't just be stopped by the boundary of a border. It would literally go everywhere. Everybody would be affected. If there's like an earthquake, well, what happens? Well, basically, one side of the world will feel it the most, wherever it's happening at. But then the other side of the world sometimes has the repercussions of it, with a tsunami or even just by feeling tremors and stuff like that. And I don't know why people don't talk about it more, because I've always noticed that when something happens in one side of the world, well, on the other side of the world there's also repercussions. But apparently it's not related, but I think it is, because we're in one ecosystem, one planet, but yet we treat it as different ecosystems, different planets, which is wrong, because we are part of this whole thing. And that's why with technology, literally, the world is becoming smaller and smaller. And if they actually did inventions kind of like the hyperloops and all these things that they talk about, well, going from literally the other side of the world to the other, it would be like 4 or 5 hours. And if they could invent other kind of spacecrafts that would basically let us use the rotation of the Earth and stuff like that, it could be even like shorter, because we'd be able to go into the atmosphere and basically wait for the rotation of the Earth and then go back down, since the Earth is turning so fast anyways. And there's just so many things. So you'd be able to go from one side of the world to the other in 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours, and that becomes almost a commute. And that's what I'm saying is, if we keep on fighting about fake borders, if we keep on fighting about fake countries, if we keep on fighting about differences of just skin and stuff like that, well, our religions and all these things, well, we're basically doing all these things that they have no point. They're distracting us. Already now we live such a short life in some way. Even living to 100 is not enough in the history of the world, and we are worried about such small trivial things, whereas we should just be helping each other and doing the best we can as humans and just enjoying our little time that we have on this earth, and stop worrying about fake things and maybe help each other more, because there's just so much food, so many places, so many houses, empty houses and all these things, but nobody's helping each other. Everybody's selfish, and that's a big problem. Okay, that's it. That's all I have to say on the subject. Have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.